You're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense with your host, Doug Thorpe. Here's Doug.
Well, greetings again, everyone. You're listening to another episode of Leadership Powered by Common Sense. I'm your host, Doug Thorpe. Today, we're going to continue a little bit of a discussion about the entrepreneur's journey. I've got a gentleman with me who is himself a serial entrepreneur. He's been through several different businesses and now continues that journey, but has expanded and is an angel investor and is a bit of a coach for other aspiring entrepreneurs. So we're going to just dive in and listen about his journey. His name is Anmol Singh. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, and you're out of New York City, correct?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you been there most of your life?
Not really. I grew up in India. I was born and raised in India. And then 2010, I moved out to London. So stayed there for about 5 years. And 2015 is when I got to New York.
Oh, okay. Right before all the fun began.
Exactly.
Well, good. Well, as I alluded to, you've had an interesting journey as an entrepreneur. Tell the folks some of if you can, just kind of walk through the background real quick and hit the high points, and then we'll dive into other details.
Yeah, definitely. So, I grew up in India and I was there till I was 18 years old. But I always, for some reason, I just was in love with New York City. Even growing up as a child, in front of my computer, I would have pictures of the skyline, all the things that a child would want, like cars, all those things. I had it in there because I learned early on a vision board is something you should do. I don't know who put this in my head, but I started doing that. And then I just, looked at it every single day and I made a path. Okay, what's next that I need to do? And then at that time, I was, applying for universities and stuff in the US, but I think they had a few more guidelines and things to do before you can come to the US. So I wasn't able to get in anywhere. So I said, okay, maybe I go to the UK instead. So started my journey there in college, graduated from business honors degree. And then while I was in college, I was really curious about the stock market. I started researching, started learning more about how the stock market works. And I started trading from my dorm room. And that's how my career started in the stock market, in the finance world. Eventually, I was working for a prop firm, which is a trading firm. It was in New York City, in White Plains in New York. And I was working for them, but remotely from my dorm room. So eventually, when I got, up the levels in the firm, I decided that, okay, maybe it's time I finally now move to New York. So that's how my journey began in the entrepreneurship arena.
Wow, very industrious. And I'm going through my mind thinking about other stories of entrepreneurs who began in their dorm rooms. Here locally where I am in Texas, probably the most famous one is Michael Dell of Dell Computer. He ran his roommates out of the adjoining bathroom suite they had. And the story is he had computer parts in the tub. He was storing them there as he was building computers and selling them to people. And that's how he kind of got his start going. And eventually even dropped out of college, didn't even finish the program. And I know Bill Gates never finished his program. So it is done. But so as you got out and were working for the stock trading outfit, what led you to your first real entrepreneurial venture?
Yeah, definitely. So, I consider trading always as like an entrepreneurial venture, because in trading, it's you and the computer. There's no, employees as such. There's no colleagues as such. It's you doing everything from home, and it's an entrepreneurial venture. And it's also like a eat what you kill business. If you don't make money trading, well, you're not going to make anything. So that was my first taste of entrepreneurship, is starting something of my own and starting my trading career. And then that parlayed into eventually, after I had been doing this for about 6-7 years, I teamed up with my mentor who actually taught me how to trade. And I said, why don't we team up together? And, you just taught me, I'm your case study. Why don't we team up and we teach other people how to trade as well? And then that's how it started in the education online space. That was my first entrepreneurial venture, was teaching people how to do it with live traders, offering advisory services, coaching services, seminars. And that's kind of the first thing that I started. And then, as you get older, as you build reserves of wealth, then you're able to invest a lot more and start a lot of other ventures. So that's how you make, your money work for yourself. And right now, currently, I have a portfolio of about 32 different startup companies that I'm an angel investor in. And we're just helping them and backing them grow their companies, as well as, try to get an exit into an IPO in the stock market. So that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Well, as you look, and this will be something a lot of the listeners will be interested in learning about if they've never tried attracting an angel investor. What are some of the things you look for when you're hearing a story of an entrepreneur and the idea they've got?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I'm always looking not really so much on the concept or the idea, because everybody has great ideas. But what really matters is the entrepreneur passionate enough to execute on it? Is he knowledgeable enough? Is he passionate enough? And more so, is he doing it for the love of the thing, or is he doing it for the love of the exit, which is going public in a stock market? Because if that's what they're doing it for, just to make a quick buck and have a stock that go public, then usually those entrepreneurs tend not to make it, because they're very short-term focused. And when they come across a little adversity, they'll end up giving up, or they get a little buyout offer. They just first sign off that they'll sell their company. And that's a lot usually what we're looking for. We're looking for entrepreneurs that are hungry, that are driven, that are, they have a purpose behind it. And that's sort of what we're looking for, is their passion. Like, really, are they all in? Or are they just like, well, let me try this business. If it doesn't work, I'll move on to something else. So the attitude is the most important thing.
Yeah. Do you have a parameter? Are there certain industry types that you participate with?
Yes. So I'm mostly, some of the investments that I'm in the financial sector, just because I have the expertise in that. So it'll be financial technology, new payment providers, or new sorts of things coming in the space. So that's kind of where I'm focused majorly. But then we also have consumer products. There are different ones. One of them is actually a really good one that I could name, is called Vending Solutions. It's called Popcom. So what they're doing is they have these little kiosks that they can place anywhere. Let's say it's a music festival. Let's say it's outside a pharmacy when the pharmacy is, let's say, closed, right? And now people go in, they scan their biometrics, they scan their IDs, and you could get, regulated stuff like medicines, like liquor, like tobacco, based on your biometrics from a vending machine, which doesn't exist right now. So I think that's going to be a really good one that we're, invested in. That's an example of one of them.
Oh, neat. And do you have a story about one of your investments that has taken off and doing very well? Maybe not fully IPO'd yet or anything like that, but they've in fact, really grabbed some good traction and are making good progress.
Yeah, there's a couple, two that I had that did really, really well. And that's one of the things with angel investing, is that 80 or 90% of the companies you're going to invest in are never going to make it. That's just the fact. But that's why you have a portfolio of diversified companies, that you get one or two that end up making public, and they usually make up for that. So a couple of good ones that I had, it was a drone company out of Canada they make drones, not the commercial drones for you and I with the cameras, but they supply it to the police department, they supply it to the fire departments, researching drones that take a whole map of that. And then also during COVID, they were delivering vaccines and stuff in remote villages through the drones. So those are the technology that I invested in, and it's a publicly listed company at the moment, and that did really well for me. Another one was in the cannabis space a few years ago, when the whole thing started with the legalization. So one of the companies that I invested in eventually was acquired, bought out by another bigger company, and that was like a good result for me at that point.
Are you part of a team? Do you have other partners in your angel group, or are you pretty much on your own?
So we have like a mastermind. So we don't invest together. We do have a group of people. So we chat about different ideas. We research different ideas. We do due diligence and go through different concepts in different companies. But then we still make our own individual decisions. But there's a group of people that we bounce ideas with each other.
So kind of like your own Shark Tank, huh?
Right. Yes.
You can make your own deals and independent. It has always intrigued me when I talk with entrepreneurs about bringing on investors, when you do commit to a company, what level of activity do you engage with those owners? Do you become an advisor to them, or do you sit on an advisory board, or how do you typically engage?
Yeah, so majority of them, I would be just like a silent investor. Like I'm not going to be, I would say 60-70% of the investments, I'm completely silent. It's just a monetary investment. And then there's no involvement in although I do try any way I can support the companies. But a lot of times they already have boards and things in place when they're ready to raise money. So at that point, you're mostly just a financial investor. Then there'll be a few companies, I would say 30% of the companies that I would be more active role in. So in that, I could be on the board of the company, or I could be having like advisory calls with the team, once a week, get on a call, make sure the progress is going, how we can add value. If there's any way my team can support them, or maybe connect them with the right people that can help their business go further. So we usually have a call a week with our entrepreneurs and, try to help them any way we can.
Now, do you still have your online training business?
Yes. So online training business is still, alive at livetraders.com. And we do that every day. We live stream, we have seminars and courses and advisory services. So yeah, that's a business is still doing pretty good.
So with all this activity, and I'm going to assume you've still got your own personal trading activity that you're engaged with. So yes. The question becomes one of time management. What have you found that's effective for you in managing all this activity that you've got going on?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the first thing is I don't never try to manage time. Nobody can, right? Only God can. Nobody can manage time. Time happens, time goes. Everybody's got the same amount of time. And sometimes when I look at myself and I compare myself to Elon Musk, and I'm like, look at him, like all these things he's doing. How is he doing it? Then I feel like, okay, maybe I need to step up. I need to be doing more. So I look at that and I feel like I'm not doing a whole lot. I feel like I still have more time and more things I can take on. But it really comes through prioritizing. Right, you have to have priorities. There's some things I assign them like a priority level. So a priority level of 1 means I have to get to it today. And then priority level of 2 means I have to get to it this week. Priority level of 3 will be I have to get to it this month. So I organize all my tasks in priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. And then based on those priorities, they all happen to be on my calendar. Because once they're on the calendar, then that's it. Like right now we're talking, then maybe about a 1:30, 2:30, I may have another call, and then I'm just moving from a calendar to calendar to calendar, and then my day is organized in priority order. So I think that's one of the things, is not to try to manage time, but just create that harmony between everything that you're doing, all the tasks. Because I don't really believe in balancing things. It's more like harmonizing things, and I learned that from one of my mentors. So I think that's what we're trying to really do when it comes to taking on a bunch of different tasks, and also having teams, not trying to do everything on your own. Like I have, my executive that sometimes I might delegate the tasks to him to go out and communicate with that person. So having a team of people definitely helps.
Business is all about solving complex problems as fast as you can create them. Become the best problem solver by leading others to greatness too. And the first step is going to DougThorpe.com. Doug Thorpe is known globally for coaching entrepreneurs and business leaders, improving their performance and the work output of everyone surrounding them. You can find health, wealth, and happiness by learning to lead others to health, wealth, and happiness. Go to DougThorpe.com now and order Doug's books or hire him to coach your managers. That's DougThorpe.com.
Well, a couple of things in what you said there, and it's ironic you spoke of Elon Musk. I actually use him, and I also point to Jeff Bezos. And when I talk to clients about time and frustration with feeling kind of overwhelmed with the details of the day, I point out that, there are people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos who arguably have created amazing empires of things with a lot of different activities and obviously a lot of different people. But the question becomes, and to your point, we all have exactly the same amount of time in the day. So why are some people so much more incredibly productive with accomplishments than others? And I do think it comes down to that idea of priority. and setting calendars. And you're right. I'm not going to argue with the idea of it's not really managing per se, but it's allocating time to the priority things you need to get done and things can be significant contributions to your future success. And it's amazing how often people don't do well with just that part of their lives. I had one client last year. We were sitting and talking. We had already been engaged for several months, and I was doing advisory work with him about his business, and we had already made some good progress. But finally I said, turn your screen around there and show me your calendar. And he did. He pivoted his screen and there was nothing. It was blank. And I said, how are you doing anything? And I said, no wonder you feel this kind of chaos swirling around you. You're just flapping in the wind. You're letting things come your way, change your course, change your direction. How are you getting any of your 1, 2s, and 3s accomplished? And so, and by the way, I like your framework there. It's very simple, very direct. But anyway, I think it is so important. And if I may, the other thing I'll chime in on, you used one of my new magic words, harmony. And as we came through COVID, I was talking with clients about often this notion of work-life balance came up, and I said, I think balance is a bad word for that. Balance implies giving something up in favor of something else, because that's how a scale works. That's how you get to balance. But harmony, I think, is a good word, because you've got simultaneous actions still happening. But if you harmonize it, it's coming together, it's blending together nicely, kind of like a symphony orchestra is harmonized. But all the musicians are playing different instruments. They're just doing it at the same time, and they're doing it on the same pattern. So I think that idea of harmonizing is really important.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the great example you gave about the orchestra, that's how it is. You have one person, you're trying to manage one thing, it's not going to work, whereas everybody just plays their part in harmony. And that's life, that life will always have things that come up. So if you're in harmony with that environment and the things and tasks that are coming in, you're going to be able to tackle that. And some of that also comes with actually doing things that you like doing. I am really passionate. Like, it makes me really curious about businesses and all those things. Like, I thrive on it. So for me, it does not feel like work at all. Like, I would rather work than watch something on Netflix. So everybody has to look at their time and seeing how they're allocating it. And you know what? COVID was actually a great eye opener, because before COVID, everybody I heard said, you know what, only if I had more time, I could start my new thing. If I had time, I'd start this. If I had time, I'd start that. And then some of them, they were at home in COVID and the offices were closed, their jobs were not there. They had the time. They didn't do it. So that shows that, there's a lot of people need to also have integrity with their word. Whatever they're saying, make sure you really mean it. And I try to live by that every day. If I'm saying something, I hope I can really, really mean it. Don't want to say, I wish I had this, I wish I had that, because when you have it, did you make the most of it? So I think COVID was a great eye opener for that.
So if I may, Anmol, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. You mentioned a mentor. I am a huge fan of mentorship, and most of my listeners know my story about growing up the only child of a single mom. And the one amazing thing she did was surround me with mentors at an early age, and we carried it on. And I've been a big fan of it my whole life, participated in it both ways, been mentored and be a mentor. Who are some of the other mentors that influenced your journey?
So I would say in the trading space, it was my business partner right now, Jared Wesley. So he taught me how to trade, and I was 18 years old when I met him. And so he kind of took me under his wing. He taught me how to trade, and definitely immense gratitude, because hadn't I been in the trading world, other things might have not happened in life, right? How it unfolded. So I think that definitely. And then in life area, in my spirituality, in life, and organizational skills, all of those things. James Arthur Ray, a great mentor of mine, he wrote the book actually Harmonic Wealth. That's where I got the idea about the harmony from. So I think he's been a great mentor to me as well. And those two are kind of, I bounce off it.
Yeah. And who else, what inspired you to go your business degree route in school?
So that came from, having growing up in an Indian household where you have to be either a doctor, engineer, lawyer, or a business owner. Right? Okay. There's only 4 options. So I grew up in a business family. My dad ran his own business. So he was an entrepreneur. I saw that very early on, like how much he sacrificed, how much he traveled. Like I barely saw him when I was, younger, because he was traveling all around the world trying to make the business happen. So I learned grit. I learned perseverance from him. So my dad, in a way, was also my mentor. Unconsciously. He never consciously sat me down and mentored me, but just by observing the actions, it was a really fascinating thing to watch. And the perseverance, the grit is kind of what I learned from that. And some of the ideas that I wrote about in my book, I learned from Werner Erhard. He used to have, as a personal development leader back in the day. So I think those are kind of my inner circle of mentors that I look for advice from.
So what do you think's next for you in the big scheme of things?
Next for me, definitely going to continue to do my trading because it's like a passion of mine. I like it, and I like teaching people how to do it and getting them the results that they want. So I think that's something that I'm really dedicated towards. And the second thing I'm going to be potentially doing is sharing, my advice, because I think I bring something unique to the table with the things that I've gone through and things that I've done. So I want to be more contributing to the world by being on podcasts and and shows like yours, so that I'm not just keeping it to myself. If there's something I could say that it might help somebody, then that's amazing. That's great. That makes me feel really good. Yeah. So that's what's next for me, just spreading the message.
If I might ask, how are you looking at the markets right now with all the uncertainty in the world, financial horizon? In the U.S. here, the big debate, are we in recession, inflation, whatever? Nobody knows. And so many of the traditional metrics are contradictory. And so, what are you seeing in the markets since you're in there every day?
Yeah, so I think if you're looking as a long-term perspective, like 5-10 years and plus, I don't think anything's really changed. These are all just cycles that we get all the time, right? And you probably know more, and through your lifetime, you would have seen the Greece debt crisis, this war, that war, but the market just steadily just always keeps going up. You'll get these wicks. So I think if somebody's a long-term investor, you don't need to worry about it. Sure, we might have a year or two of nothingness, but then eventually we're going to continue to go back up. So I think long-term, there's nothing to be concerned about. These are just cycles that happen all the time, and they're healthy. Because if things just always kept going up without never coming down, that would have been something more scary to look for. But these things are very healthy for the markets to have those periods of correction and then uncertainty, because that's what moves the market. There's only 2 emotions that move the market: fear and greed. And learning how to read that is imperative. So, for example, for us, the way we're navigating it, we exited pretty much all of our long-term investments, like beginning of 2022, which was great, because we survived the 30%, 35% drop. And then we bought it back in December, January of this year. We bought it all back. So now we're back in it again. And since then, we've seen a nice comeback in the markets. And I do think 2023 is going to period of uncertainty, meaning we're not really going to go up that much in the market, but we're also not really going to go down as people expect. We're going to get a lot of back and forth is 2023. I call it the dead money period, where no return should be really expected. And then 2024, I think we're going to start after the elections, we're going to start to, go back up again. But until then, there's going to be that uncertainty.
Yeah. That's pretty wise. I have a good friend who's a lifelong, business leader. He's made most of his money in commercial real estate, but when we talk about the stock market, he is quick to remind everybody that everything seeks equilibrium. So there's there is an undeniable core value in an equity. And even though the market around it may just go nuts and take a run up, real run, high run, there will be a level setting and a dose of reality that it'll come back down again. So that's because it'll come back down to that point of equilibrium where the real value of the equity sits. And I think it's definitely wise words to think about, because to your point, greed and fear is what drives. And if people lose their rational basis about where the real value of a particular company is, you're going to make bad decisions about it.
Yeah. And, reversion to the mean is a very real thing. And to your point, so there's two emotions, fear and greed. So when fear gets, too much, it gets extended to the downside. When things are falling, guess what happens? We reverse back up again, reversion to the mean when fear is at extreme. Same thing with greed. When greed is at extreme, you would have seen people are buying NFTs, JPEGs. People are doing all sorts of stuff because greed has just got out of control. So then we get the reversion to the mean. We come right back down. So that's a very healthy market dynamic, that anytime we get too away in the greed direction or the fear direction, we always snap back. So there's always a baseline in the markets that we revert back to. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, Anmol, I think this has been great, and thank you for sitting in. We're going to kind of wrap things up, but tell people how to best get a hold of you if they're interested in learning more about the things you offer.
Yeah, definitely. So if they're interested in learning more about trading, you could go to livetradersguide.com, where you can get my free guide, and it'll give you a lot of good information to start off with, and that'll tell you if you're interested in the markets or not. And then you could decide to proceed further. So that would be the best way if you're interested in trading. If you want to get in touch with me, Instagram and Twitter is where you could find me. My username on both of those is Delta90, spelled out, DELTANINETY. Don't ask me why I have the username, got it a long time ago. But because it caught traction, I don't want to change it anymore. But yeah, Delta90 is where they can find me on Instagram and Twitter.
Gotcha. Well, that's great. And as always, folks, we're going to have that info in the show notes, so you can click the link there. That'll be in the footnote there. But Anmol, one last time, thank you, man, for sitting in. This has been helpful.
Well, thank you. It was great chatting with you.
Yeah, likewise. Well, folks, we're going to remind you that we have a video version of this over on YouTube, a channel by the same name. And I would certainly appreciate, if you're listening right now, if you'll drop a review on your favorite streaming channel, or go over there to YouTube and hit a thumbs up or thumbs down, whichever your preference, and leave us a comment. But for now, we're going to sign off, say goodbye, and hope to see you again real soon.
You've been listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense, hosted by Doug Thorpe. If you would like to know more about the coaching and advisory services he provides, visit DougThorpe.com.